I know Janice will do it. Good morning, everyone. Happy February. Isn't it crazy we were here a month ago? Isn't it crazy how time works, that it just keeps going? Wow, Chris, too loud. All right. Good morning, everybody. By a show of hands, who gets lost in the morning? Like, who can't find the auditorium? Damn it. Oh, not like in life. I mean, like. I was like, just generally. Yes. Okay, I'm going to do better signage next month for any new folks that are joining us. I apologize. Hi, hello, welcome. Welcome to Creative Mornings, y'all. Woo! Anybody's first time, raise your hand. Oh my gosh, look at you. Welcome, 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 welcome. Thank you for coming. My name is Molly. I am your host. That's all. Hey! All right, and then we're going to kick me off stage because we do 30-second pitches. Creative Mornings is about shining the light on our communities. And one way to do this is via a 30-second pitch. We also call them espresso shots, community minutes, your turn, audience takes the stage. This is where we invite a few people from the audience to come up to the stage, share a pitch with our audience. It could be that they're looking to hire, need collaborators, have an upcoming event they'd like to promote, or who knows, maybe you're even looking for a date. If you'd ever like to do a pitch, please reach out. I have like 3 to 5 spots, so we have 3 for this month, and we will start with Diana from the Clara. Come on up.
Hello, good morning. Hi, my name is Diana. I am the operations associate here at Clara, and just wanted to come up here and tell you guys a little bit about what we have coming up. So for those of you who came here last month, you might notice this is kind of the same slide, but we have just extended a few things. So the incredible Bitsaida LeBron will be teaching some improv classes with us starting next month. So originally they were supposed to start this month, but we just want to get as much people as we can signed up. So there is still time. We have until March 13th. There is an 8-week beginner and a 6-week advanced workshop. Tammy Hackbarth, who we all know and love, is actually signed up. So if you want to come play, have fun and do improv with us, please sign up. And the last time I also talked about our Annex RFP, which is currently out. And so the deadline for that has been extended to March 28th. So we are still looking for, a new neighbor here at Clara. So if you're interested, just feel free to reach out and I can send you that document and so you can know everything you need to apply. All right, thank you guys.
Yeah, if it works. But I don't know where to put the arrow. Yeah.
I forgot.
So remember last month when I was here and I was like, oh, you guys, you're live in 2025, and you were all like, yay! And everyone's like, seems like a big stretch. Guess what? So if you want to, you can try. But if you're more of a survive person, free workshop on Tuesday, 5:15 p.m. Join me. Go to tammyhackbarth.com/survive. That URL might be wrong. But if you can't get it that way, just sign up for my newsletter. You'll get all the deets. And it's a really good class. And we're going to have super fun times. And we're going to get through 2025 together. Yay! And seriously, join us for improv because it would be really weird for it just be like 2 people. Make it a challenge. Yeah. Arrow, but you have to point it at the computer.
I'm making a new class all the time.
Oh, one too many.
Okay, if you are willing, right now, wiggle your toes vigorously in your shoes. Okay? Now put your feet on the floor, push and lift your heels a few times. Great job. You have just done something good for your pelvic floor. Yes. Now, I know, ladies, we have been told our entire lives to do Kegels. And yet, they are not what is going to support your core and pelvic floor health. In fact, they are an insult to the intelligence of this female body. Am I right? Yes. Especially if you suffer from sneeze, pee, pelvic pain, hip pain, low back pain, that whoopsie when you laugh too hard or cough, you're afraid of trampolines, you have prolapse. These are real things, right? The good news is you do not have to suffer from any of these things, and I can help you. I am Michelle Marlahan from It's All Yoga. You can see the other wonderful things that we do through the online studio here. And my passion is working one-on-one with women to help support their core and pelvic health. Please take a picture of this. This is how to connect with me. Message me. You can also find me after Megan's amazing talk today. I look forward to connecting. Do your heel lifts.
What is it?
Michelle also brought the donuts from Marie's. So sweet treat drive.
Pelvic floor approved.
Yeah.
Thanks, y'all. If you ever want to do a pitch, reach out. Let me know. I would love it if we had someone that was like single and just like was up here and like bachelor style. You know what I mean?
Oh God.
I think we do it 1 month. Jason, everybody, looking for a date. All right. Our theme for February is layers. It was chosen by our Lausanne chapter in Switzerland and illustrated by Catherine Olivia Pearson. Layers give our work a richer complexity and depth. We must peel them away to discover our deeper truths. I'm sorry for like the really dramatic icebreaker question this morning. You can thank that to ChatGPT. All right, Adobe recently joined us as a global partner as they recognize the impact Creative Mornings is having on the global ecosystem of creativity, and they're committed to supporting creatives around the world. Just like our local partners make our events in Sacramento possible, global partnerships are the fuel that power us as an organization. They ensure that Creative Mornings can continue to grow and thrive around the world. Raise your hand, who uses Adobe? Look at all these creative people. Now keep your hand up if you're familiar with Adobe Express. Nice. Express is the quick and easy create anything app from Adobe. From flyers to social media campaigns and standout videos, Adobe Express has you covered. You can use it for free at adobe.com/express. All right, y'all. So a lot of new people here. I really appreciate you. And if you want to make more friends, that's what Creative Mornings is for. Our events are designed to create low-pressure moments to meet new people and foster genuine connections. So after the talk, introduce yourself to someone new. Next month, invite your friends to come to Creative Mornings so they can become our friends too. Is Candace here? Candace? No. Emily Weiss. Where? Hi. You're my #1 person with 32 signups this morning for Creative Mornings events.
Oh.
Thank you. Now everyone knows Emily. Emily, I just made you 99 friends. All right, turn to the person next to you, say hello, say good morning. You can disclose what's on your name tag if you want. Just a quick hello. So like some of these volunteers, more people in the room. Thank you so much for your time, everything. I could not do this without y'all. Especially photographer Fong, thank you. Videographer David, amazing. So if you ever want to volunteer, send me an email. And now the really sad part, David's leaving me. David is moving to San Diego. We are so happy. He's going to be more tan than all of us all the time. But that means I need a new videographer. So if anybody is interested in recording video for us, please send me an email. I do want to note this is 100% volunteer, everything. The space, our food, our coffee, everything, my time, our volunteers, our photographer, videographer, everything is 100% volunteer. I just want to make that very clear. So I know it's a huge ask to do this for creatives, but if you're interested at all, it doesn't have to be an all-year thing. If you just want to do it 1 month, whatever it is, let me know. I would really appreciate your help. Otherwise, I'm setting up my iPhone. It's gonna not be as good as the David's. So on that note, huge thank you to our local partners. Diana and the Clara, they donate this space to us every month. It's phenomenal. The co-op for giving us all of our fruit, our flowers every month as well. and Seasons Coffee, keeping us nice and caffeinated every morning. Their cafe is within the Clara. It's inside. If you haven't seen it before, check it out. Also, so cute. And then, like Tammy said, thank you, Michelle, for our donuts this morning. Really, really appreciate it. And if you ever want to pick up donuts, pastries, bagels, breakfast tacos, if you ever want to do anything like that, just let me know. Can you tell I'm from Austin? Sweet. Okay. Creative Mornings is currently in 244 chapters or cities in 70 countries worldwide. 27,000 morning people attend a Creative Mornings talk every month. Our events are and always will be free. So our next event, March 21st, mark your calendar. Doors always open for coffee, breakfast at 8:30 a.m. Speakers start at 9. So we'd love to see you next month. All right, our manifesto sets the tone for our events and shines a light on our values here at Creative Mornings. So we are going to read it together. Here we go. Everyone is creative.
A creative life requires bravery and action, honesty and hard work. We are here to support you, celebrate with you, and encourage you to make the things you love. We believe in the power of community. We believe in giving a damn. We believe in face-to-face connections, in learning from others, in hugs and high fives. We are together people who are driven by passion and purpose, confident that they will inspire one another and inspire change in neighborhoods and cities around the world. Everyone is welcome.
I'm gonna go back for a second just to not overshadow.
Okay.
If you, speaking of supporting Creative Mornings, we also have merch for sale in the back. If you haven't bought a t-shirt and you want to, they're there. All right, now we can welcome Megan. Megan's purpose, path, and passion in life is to share and cultivate the experience of joy, even and especially when all the varied layers and challenges, bless you, of our lives and the world around us might tell us otherwise. She's an artist, writer, speaker, wellness advocate, and podcast host. After 3 major life-altering events, Megan's book, The End of Me, was published in 2019, a partial memoir that details her brushes with death. As the host of MYA, My Yoga Audio Podcast, she provides meditations and yoga classes, and she interviews creatives, wellness experts, and people doing amazing things in and for their communities. Welcome, Megan. Come on. You can use the clicker, then
And
arrow.
you click right?
Yeah, the right arrow to go through.
Okay. Hi, everybody. Welcome to my TED Talk. This is my my version of a TED Talk, and I'm so excited to be here. I am a multi-hyphenate. I just learned this word about 2 weeks ago, thanks to a colleague and friend of mine named Carissa Gutierrez. Because I asked her to describe me. Molly reached out and said, "What's the title of your talk?" And I'm like, "Layers?" She's like, "No, like Mars Parker, comedian, Tammy Hackbarth, coach." And I'm like, I don't know. And I had this moment of panic. So Carissa told me, "I see you as a multi-hyphenate butterfly." I'm like, I don't think I can put that in there. So I'm just going to say multi-hyphenate. And then I dove deep into what that means. So it's someone who has several titles, roles, and specifically multiple creative skills. So they need a series of hyphens to link their identities all together because they don't identify with just one. And I realized I've been doing this for years, and I think a lot of you have too. When you go on LinkedIn, you're not just like CEO or entrepreneur. It's like, oh, I do this, and I do this, and I do this. And your social media profiles, I'm a yoga teacher, I'm a runner, I'm a mom, I'm a dog mom. Like, we've all been doing this for years. So I'm like, it's not really a brand new thing. I just learned what the definition is. I have to click 2 things. Do I have to point it at that? Oh, okay. So, as I said, I'm a speaker, a yoga teacher, an artist, an author, a runner, an equity and wellness advocate, and I could add on to more of those things. And since it's Black History Month, and it's also Nina Simone's birthday today, I wanted to bring up a quote from Nikki Giovanni that I found. "Once you know who you are, you don't have to worry anymore." But I think what a lot of us are going through is figuring out who we are over the course of a lifetime, and we never really get to that arrival point because we're constantly evolving. So being a multi-hyphenate, and I want to thank Jordan Brewer is about embracing our natural curiosity. And I think that's what most of us who come to Creative Mornings and are entrepreneurs and creatives do. We're experimental, we're facilitative, we're comfortable in chaos. Maybe not so much comfortable, but we're trying to be comfortable in the current chaos, especially right now. We're willing to explore outside the lines. We break the personal and professional barriers, and we're willing to lead during times of change. Sorry, I'm not keeping up with the double clicking. So long before I realized or understood multi-hyphenate, I've embraced the concept of returning to the root. And wanted to share a Sankofa symbol with you. It's a word from the Akan people of Ghana that means to retrieve or to go back and get it. It's also an Adinkra symbol that represents learning from the past to create a better future. So I'm kind of positing that we figure out who we are by learning from the and our past. And I'm going to shift gears a little bit to the word radical. This is a word that gets thrown around a lot these days, especially by the current federal administration, as a bad thing, radical leftists. But if we actually look at the roots of the word radical, it means the root. And the earliest uses of this word all hinge on the meaning of relating to or proceeding from the root. So it's turned into something today that refers to political or social change. The artists are radical, activists are radical, innovators are radical. They're seen as extreme or progressive. There's political associations. Interestingly, in chemistry, it's a group of atoms behaving as a unit in a number of compounds. And I kind of became obsessed with that definition because as creatives, as artists, as activists, as a community, we work together to achieve a common goal. And I don't think that's a bad thing. And so when we go back to the root of what many of us are taught, especially in North America, is that we are born, we live our life, and then we die. There's kind of like these three finite stages. Finite stages. I'm seeing all the familiar faces of the people I love and our friends, and I'm so grateful that you're all here. Sorry, now I messed up my my order. So what we're taught, what we're supposed to do with our lives is go to school, go to work, get married, have kids, and retire. It's a very limited definition of like these three stages of life, and this is what we do, or supposed to do. But what if there are other ways? And I think we all know here that there are layers in between all of those three stages of supposed so-called life. But there are forces that say you're not supposed to ask that question or think about doing things differently or doing things more creatively. And so I want to encourage us to think about relying upon our layers when things don't go according to plan. This is a photograph that I took in Canada. It's of Lake Erie the day before I moved permanently to California and to the United States. And I actually have it hanging up in my office at my full-time day job, and it reminds me, because of those layers between the sky and the water and the clouds and the sun and everything in between, it's like, what stage am I in right now? It's a reminder of like, what do I need to do to move to this next layer, to make a decision, to take the next right action? So I want to encourage us to, these three concepts were inspired by a talk that the writer and activist Adrienne Maree Brown gave at the Government Alliance on Racial Equity annual conference last year, where she encouraged us to embrace our imagination, contradiction, and our commitment. So as kids, we have wild imaginations, right? We go outside, we're playing, we're creative, and it's encouraged for the most part in school and at home. But then we grow up and we kind of leave that behind because we get into these functions of society that we're supposed to do. And now we live with the contradiction of what we want to do with our lives and then the barriers and the lanes that we're in as we move about in the world. And how do we hold those two things at once? And it's really hard, and we have to do it more and more every day. And we have to remain committed to the things we really want to accomplish. We have to do the things we need to do in order to survive, but we also have to live with the contradiction and the barriers that are in front of us. So I wanted to move into a little bit more personal territory. This is some photos of my parents, my biological parents, my father, Ronald Painter, my mother, Maria Painter. So I was born to them, but I didn't grow up with them. My mother died when I was 7 months old, and my father when I was 4. So I didn't have the benefit of living the life they may have envisioned for me. And I was raised by my mother's parents in Canada, my grandparents. And so here's a picture of me at age 7. So one of the things that I've embraced in the layering of myself as I've grown older is returning to and I've had this with the help of therapists, with coaches, with guides, through yoga. I've had so many amazing teachers that have taught me to go back to what that little girl needed at that time, and what could I do now in this lifetime, in this moment, with my children, with my community, to heal that little part of her that felt that she couldn't grieve. I was always told that I didn't have a right to grieve the death of my parents because I didn't really remember them. I didn't remember my mom at all, but I do remember my dad. And that always felt like this deep, gaping hole inside of me. And it was a layer that needed to be healed. It took me about 40 years to realize that and embrace that. So I'm constantly reaching back to that 7-year-old. And I encourage you to think of the same thing. What does that little person inside of you need that comes out in your workplace now? Like when we react, when we're triggered in social and work and community environments, there's something that's unhealed that is asking you to tap into that little part of you that needs a helping hand. So to get into some more layers, when people ask me where I'm from, I'm like, how much time do you have? I'm just starting to say I'm from Sacramento now because it's easier. But I was born in Bermuda, raised in Canada, and then moved to the United States permanently in 2013. But the other layer that really informs my life, and which many of you know, is that, so my mother died when I was 7 months old. My father died when I was 4 years old. And the first time I died, I was 19. And that's the opening line to my book, The End of Me. So briefly, the long story is in the book, but when I was 19, I was swimming in Lake Huron. And I'm a good swimmer. I'm like one step away from lifeguard status, but I got hit by a rogue wave, slammed into a steel barrier, and sank to the bottom of Lake Huron. And when I looked up, I was like, oh, that's the sun coming through. And I was there for a while and, not breathing. And as I moved upwards, this is what I thought was floating towards the sunlight, I realized I was actually in a tunnel. And what proceeded next was kind of that cliched experience you hear about people who have near-death experiences, where you're moving towards the light. And I'm going to be careful. I've been profoundly moved by the story of the devilfish, the anglerfish. I don't know if you've all heard that story, and all the metaphors that are coming up about this lone fish that normally scrapes the bottom of the ocean floor, rising to sea level just for a few moments before she died. And I've found a lot of parallels with that experience. And so long story short, my mother met me at the end of the tunnel and said, like, it's not your time. You need to go back. You have more work to do. And I was angry. I wanted to stay there. I wanted to be with her and spend time with her, but she sent me back. The second time I died, I was living in Calgary, Alberta, and had just given birth to our second daughter. She came in about 27 minutes at home. And so, surprise, surprise, I hemorrhaged, and that things didn't go well. And when I came to, my father was standing there. And I was in a different place. And he said the same thing. He's like, oh my God, you're not supposed to be here. It was very dramatic. You need to get sent back. And he sent a hospital team over, sent me back home. Third time I died, I was living just outside of Toronto. It was the day after my 28th birthday. It was a very snowy day. I was getting onto the on-ramp of the highway and I spun out. And when I stopped, I was like, oh good, I'm on the side of the road. No, I was in the middle of the highway and was hit by a double tanker truck. So the car was crumpled, and when I came to, the driver was bent over the front of the crumpled car, sobbing because he was convinced that I was dead too. And so when I wrote the book, eventually The End of Me, it took me years to be able to come to terms with that. I didn't process anything when those events actually happened. At 19, the romantic partner that I was with at the time was like, people are going to think you're crazy if you talk about this stuff. So you just need to like get over it and move on with your life. When my daughter was born and that happened, I did talk to very close friends and family members, but again, it was like whispered and kind of like this private thing. The third time when we had this car accident, it was actually covered by local newspapers because that same day, so when I came to and I grabbed my cell phone and I called my husband at work and he ran out of his office and drove. They had just finished clearing my accident. He had an accident in the same intersection and totaled his car as well. So it was covered on the local news. And this time people were like, like what's going on? Like our insurance companies thought we were having a domestic dispute and had intentionally crashed our cars. It was wild, but it was becoming more and more public. So after that third incident, I'm like, I think I'm supposed to do something more with these experiences than I have been doing. And I started with an email to everyone who was in my contact list at the time, just describing the event, sending the newspaper article. And it started a series of conversations with people about love and about what's important to you and about how we're living our life to the fullest or not, and what we're going to do when we know that our time is more limited. So this photo is actually me at Creative Mornings in 2018, just before the launch of the book, where I came and did a 30-second pitch, which was so great to see is still happening. It was such a warm and receptive audience. So I want to thank those then and now for being here to support. But what I thought publishing the book and telling this story was kind of like, okay, this is what I'm supposed to do. It turns out it was just the beginning. So my theory is that most of us think that we're afraid of death. But I think what we're really afraid of is pain. And I say that because in each of those three experiences, going over and having, like, being hit by the tanker truck, drowning, hemorrhaging, actually wasn't painful. It was the most transformative, loving, healing, calming events of my entire life. It was when I came back into this body that I felt the most pain that I didn't think it was possible to endure. When I drowned and the partner at that time like pumped the water out of my chest, which I'm still grateful for, even though we were no longer together, taking that first breath of air in was like swallowing poison gas. When my daughter was born at home and I hemorrhaged, that first breath in after they did the chest compressions, that my doula was there, thankfully, and my husband, it felt like swallowing glass. That was the comparison that I put in my book. And then in the car accident, coming to in January in the middle of a snowstorm where all the windows were smashed, like the car was like a crumpled up pop can or soda can, as you say here in the US. I still say pop and people are like, where are you from? Was so painful and so cold. And so anyway, and I've used this symbol here of a runner because in a previous talk that I did last year, I talked about how I used to love running as a little kid. And I unfortunately had a really negative experience of some strangers trying to kidnap me while on a run with my older sister. And I got away, but it prevented me from running for so many years because I was so afraid of that experience. It impacted me. I'm very excited to say I'm running a half marathon tomorrow with my daughters. So we've got to keep pushing through those layers and the things that are holding us back. I'm afraid of this pain that happened when I was 10 years old. That threat is no longer here, but our brains and our minds and our hearts and our bodies don't always know that, and it's hard to move past it. Just want to make sure it's sinking. So this photo I took in Puerto Rico this past fall, which I was really lucky to be able to go through to a conference for my work and to present my supervisor with an amazing national award. So I'm the Verdad translates to love truly, emphasizing deep and genuine love. And the one thing I just want to encourage us all to do is that we can prioritize love. We can tell the truth. We can always defend what and who we believe in. And then to move into an example of someone who really inspires me with their work, Octavia Butler. If you've not heard of her before, she's a MacArthur Genius Grant science fiction writer, And she passed away some years ago in the early 2000s. But she really kind of predicted the current state of California that we're in right now. And in wake of the devastating fires in Los Angeles, which most of us are hyper aware of, these are things that happen in her book called The Parable of the Sower, where the president actually embraces the phrase, "Make America Great Again." Climate change has brought havoc on the state. There's income inequality, political divisiveness, and the story centers on a young woman named Lauren Alamina who's struggling to find faith and community to build a new future. And what does that look like in the face of all this? So Octavia Butler is also considered to be the mother of Afrofuturism, which centers Black identity, agency, and freedom through art, creative works, and activism, and liberated futures for Black life while acknowledging the distressing limitations of the past and the present. So again, being in Black History Month, I also want to emphasize Black Futures Month. So she had a way of looking at the future and the alternate realities through a Black cultural lens. And this term was coined by Mark Derry in his 1993 essay, Black to the Future. And I think she'd be really thrilled to know that her book, in addition to being reprinted with new images by California artist Paul Lewin, which is featured here, was a featured opera in New York City on Broadway last year. And I believe I've learned that Octavia tried to tell us is actually the name of a podcast. So that's an ongoing series if you want to dive into some more of her work. But I wanted to dive into her layers for the purpose of our theme today. So in addition to being a writer, she used to wake at 2 a.m. every morning to write her books because she had menial jobs as like a potato chip inspector and a secretary and doing all the things, like these invisible jobs, but it was so she could do the things she really wanted to do. But she was an environmentalist. So what she wrote about was based on studying rain and climate patterns. And it's really accurately reflected now in our present moment. There's some interviews with her you can find online and on YouTube. And people were saying to her, even just before she died, how did you know this was going to be our reality? And she's like, well, anybody who's paying attention to what's going on around us can see that this is what's going to happen if we allow these things and practices to go unchecked, if we're not respecting the earth and the people around us. So she was a sociologist. She looked at sociopolitical trends and she thought, hey, catastrophic drought could lead to dramatic social upheaval and violent class wars. She's a historian. So looking at history showed her over and over how the brutality and consequences of inequity and power hierarchies impact people in society. And she was a visionary. She wanted to give us the time and tools to correct course. And she had incredible hope for humanity in that we could hopefully learn from the past. And I mentioned her being a potato chip inspector. She was also the daughter of a housekeeper and a shoe shiner. And she lived in Pasadena. And she began writing about power because she had so little. So her characters focus on whatever means they have, sometimes hidden superpowers, resourcefulness. So it was the ability to problem solve time and time again. And this is just a message I also want to share here. It's like, what can we do to problem solve time and time again? We're being forced to reassess our place in the world with every breaking news release. She was interested in finding ways that imperfect humans might learn to secure a future beyond what they could see. I don't write about heroes. I write about people who survive, and sometimes they prevail. So how can we, lowly, imperfect humans, survive and sometimes prevail? I wanted to share some information that I was really fortunate to be part of a program with the Public Health Institute and the State of Equity last year. Oh no, okay. And so some of the tools they taught about is like, who benefits from our conflict, right? How can I use my power to help lift other voices, other people who may not have as much privilege or power as you do? Who can I speak honestly to about this? These are a few of the people that I've interviewed on the My Yoga audio podcast that I think represent some of the themes I hope you'll take away today about the power of truth, love, joy, and community. I also want to call out Michelle Marlahan, who was an early guest on the My Yoga audio podcast. And we were in another very similar political time frame that we are in today at that time. And I asked her how she made decisions when faced with kind of an impossible decision. And she said, I choose the one that has the least amount of harm. And so whatever that is, even if you don't like the choice, I've gone back to that again and again and again. How can I do the least amount of harm and the most amount of good? A resource I really want to share with everyone, there was a conference that I was really lucky to present at in St. Louis, Missouri, with my supervisor, Ayana, and I attended a session on love by Dr. Darrell Brooks. And he has just rethought the whole concept of love and how we can use this not as a romantic thing, not as like a family connection thing, but how we can actually limit. Oh, actually, I'm going to go to the next slide because that explains it a little bit better. It's an opportunity to interrogate what love is, how we've been socialized by it, how it shapes our capacity to lead change, and hold each other with loving accountability within the moment, reconceptualizing love in ways that helps us resist erasure and dehumanization, and defining it in ways that help us heal. And then these, I want to get to the resources. So yoga, meditation, acupuncture. I want to shout out the Sacramento Acupuncture Project out in Arden. These songs are things that take me into deep meditative space and allow me to really connect with that inner part of myself and knowing. Sometimes silence is good, but these are ones that really inspired me and I listen to again and again and again because being in those spaces takes me back to that liminal space between life and death. So whether I'm practicing yoga, meditating, going for acupuncture, that's what works for me. And these are some of the sounds that help get me there. And when I'm running or dancing, these are the ones that really lift me up lately. And yeah, that last one, you could probably get an idea of how old I am by putting Ice Cube in there. But you know, you put that song on, I'm gonna go. These are some of the books I've been reading lately that have really inspired me. Not all of them are new. The top two ones are Vibrate Higher Daily by Layla Delia is a great introductory course to like all this kind of energy work, like reading yourself, reading the room, getting into community. And anything by Adrienne Marie Brown is fantastic. And then listening, these are some podcasts that I listen to the most, and for very different reasons, which I don't have time to get into now, but wanted to share that with all of you if it's helpful. And then just to finish up, Sankofa. So where can you all retrieve, go back and get it in your life? What has been forgotten, buried, or overlooked? What can you learn from your roots and your past to create a better future for you and your community? I think being here today is a huge part of that. And the one thing I want to continue to insist on is that we can always proclaim our humanity, our connection to this planet, each other, and our ability to chart a different path than what we've been told or even chosen for ourselves. We can change our minds, our intentions, our actions, our way of loving, and our impact. And before just the final closing slide of thank you and how you can get in touch with me. Yesterday, I had a really profound experience with a Native American leader in a statewide community space where she shared with me how in her 20s she had this crisis, identity crisis, like who am I in the world? What's my purpose? What am I supposed to do? And I don't know about you, but I go through that about every 5 years or so, not just in my 20s. But she went to an elder in her community for help and advice. And the elder literally, I don't know if I can swear or not, but the elder literally said, what the fuck are you talking about? And she was kind of stunned. She's like, what do you mean? I'm coming to you for this I'm really struggling. She's like, we all have the same purpose. We are here to balance the earth. And what you need to figure out is how deep your rock goes into the earth or how much you go above the earth, like in the planet. How do you balance out what's happening on this planet? And so now I'm just lost in that metaphor, I think, for the rest of my life. But I think it was timely. I think she said it at the right time. And I wanted to share that with all of you. How can you balance the earth? What's your role in balancing the earth and just honoring this land that we're on that is stolen? In Black History Month, honoring the people who were stolen from another land and brought here, and our place now, holding all of that, those contradictions, Yeah, how do we continue to move forward? So, what can you see, love, and share about your many layers, my friends? And one thing, Octavia Butler's journals, at the end of, she would manifest, I'm going to be a New York Times bestselling author, which she is after her death. She would say, so be it, see to it. So encouraging you all to so be it, see to it, to whatever your plans are. And thank you, and to connect with me in whatever way feels right for you. This is LinkedIn, TikTok. I don't go on TikTok that often, but anyway, it's there. My website, my email. Yeah, thank you so much.
Time for a few questions. Anyone has a question or two? I feel like everyone just wants one-on-one time with you.
Yeah, keep sharing your stories.
Yeah.
I have a quick question.
Yeah.
So I just finished Parable of the Sower, and I'm now reading Parable of the Talents. I'm wondering, what was your reaction when you were reading it?
I read those books long before 2016. So when I read it, it was this adventure, and I was like, ooh, I can feel some of these things like in the air. And so when 2016 came around, I was a little terrified, and now even more so. But I'm gonna reread them, and I'm listening to one of the podcasts that I mentioned. I don't know where it is in here. Octavia's Parables. It's a podcast that goes into each of the chapters and kind of looks at present day situations and then what was written at the time. So yeah, I've been returning to. It's a lot of fear. But I'm taking some inspiration about what's possible in the community that character created, Lauren Olamina. And for those of, go ahead, Michael. Yeah, for those, I wanted to say in listening to the podcast, there is a lot of mention of God and or a higher power. So for those that may not resonate with that is a big part of the series. It is about faith and the power of community. So I just wanted to put that out there because this book gets talked about a lot, and I know not everyone resonates with that kind of message, but depending on what you believe. Michael, please.
Do you have a favorite Nina Simone song?
Oh, well, it wasn't hers originally, but I like the way she sings Strange Fruit. Mm. Yeah, Ayana.
Well, given your 3 experiences with, the transitioning moment and coming back, does that inform your fear of doing things? Are you more risks? Do you take more risks, or how does it influence your life now?
Yeah.
Having had those 3 experiences.
Given it took about a decade to even start to process what happened, I was still in a holding pattern based on the lanes that were prescribed to me or that I was willing to accept at the time. It's more so now. I've moved into my 50th decade. And so it's even more hyper real, the limited amount of time that we have. And so it kind of comes in waves. Sometimes I'll be in situations and I'll be like, what are we even doing here? Like none of this even matters. And it's not that that's ultimately true, but I have to like zoom out and see the Earth or the universe or the galaxy from this far away. And I have to remind myself, and usually an experience will like kind of trigger me into that, where when I get that feeling, like, what am I even doing here? What is the point of this? Where am I putting my energy? And so, yeah, I think, and coming into this decade that I've now come into, there's definitely more risk. Even talking about this, like I'm not scared anymore, but I get a little nervous every time someone says they bought my book. I get a little nervous every time I have to talk publicly about it because I still have that little shadow of fear of like, what will people think? But I'm honestly telling my truth, so I can't change if people think that it's ridiculous or or untrue. So I'm enjoying that phase of not worrying so much about what other people think. Yeah. Tammy.
A lot of people, I'm doing Survive.
Mm-hmm.
What is your advice as somebody who clearly lives in the discomfort of the fear of what's happening, but you still keep showing up? If somebody finds themselves in that paralysis of fear, what's something tangible that they could do to get them out of that fear state and into action?
One small thing to take care of yourself, whether that's like stopping and breathing, going and taking a nap, going for a walk, like whatever 5-minute thing you can do to get out of the panic and fear cycle, and then to help somebody else. I've been just going up at work, like even in the office, just be like, okay, I need to gather myself and then go find can I help you with something? What are you working on that you need help with? And then the other thing, I've a couple of friends who this is ironic, I only know them online, who are federal government workers, but it's through social media and the podcasts and other things I've done that we've connected. So I've been reaching out to them one by one, being like, how are you doing? Like, just by providing a support, even if you can't do anything, all of them have responded back with like, you have no idea how much I needed to have this message today. And it's not just federal workers, it's like everybody is struggling right now. And I know from you and several others in this room, I've gotten texts just like, hey, how are things considering everything, right? Like doing those little reach outs, and people, I mean, I always appreciate them, and the folks that I've been reaching out to do as well. Yeah.
All right, thanks, y'all.
Okay.
Thank you. All right, wasn't gonna cry this early, but here we are. All right, thank you so much, Megan. Thank you everyone for coming this morning. Appreciate you. That's all. We'll see you March 21st. Thanks. Have a great weekend. Be safe. Enjoy the sun.